Monica Guerra is head of U.S. policy at Morgan Stanley Wealth Management and joins us now. Monica, welcome. Obviously, listen, SNAP food benefits, lack of paychecks, airports, everything else. That's all real world impact. But I've got to imagine that Morgan Stanley Wealth Management's clients are asking about this. When or how much will it matter, and where? How are you answering them?
I mean, we're seeing it actually start to show up when we're thinking about those concerns, right? Our clients are asking almost every day. And what we've estimated is that those SNAP benefit expiration, once we actually get to a place where they aren't being paid out, could drag on personal income by 0.4%. And the important thing about that, while that's a small number, it's hitting the lower end of the economy. So it has a bigger impact for food and beverage, for example.
We know, and it's hard to say because you know that families are actually being impacted. We've shown our viewers that historically, government shutdowns really haven't mattered for the market. In fact, markets have tended to rise into them. But now that we're tied for the longest on record, is there a point, and there doesn't seem to be any end to this at all, is there a point at which it does matter for the markets?
Yeah, I think once we get into holidays, people are going to get nervous, right, if it extends that long. Now, that is not our base case. We do think that post-election, it alleviates the pressure for Democrats and Republicans and that we could get some consensus to move forward. But if it does go on and we're wrong, right, that's when I think people start to get nervous, when legislators are itching to go home for the holidays and we don't have a resolution.
Yeah, we've got elections today, by the way, in New Jersey, in Virginia, and for the mayor of New York City. These are all big deals. They tend to be a little more regional. But is there a national or investing implication on the New York City mayor race, on the Virginia gubernatorial race?
And when we're thinking about New York City, that's all about housing, and that's local, right?
Yep.
That's going to be hyper local. If we're looking at New Jersey, I think that's actually the closest to a true referendum on current political debate. So you have, Cheryl eking ahead, but then the GOP candidate, he's right on her tails. And I think that's indicative, right, of how 50-50 we're split. Virginia is a different story. It looks like they might go down, might go blue. And that's because they're also a very heavy government employee state. So they have a very different
The
dynamic.
shutdown could impact that election.
Right. So
People
the shutdown
who are on the fence are like, this is ridiculous, or whatever it might be, or we need a paycheck.
Right. Exactly. So New Jersey I would just keep my focus there. But if we're thinking about a forward look, midterms, not really quite an impact. But what it could do is it could at least give both parties an impetus to come together and actually get a deal so that we can get through these holidays.
What would any deal look like?
Healthcare is top of the line there, right?
Yeah.
So when we're thinking about ACA subsidies, and what's interesting is that the GOP and Democrats want ACA subsidy extension. Democrats want it permanent. GOP wants something more moderate, temporary and or at a lower level.
And that's kind of what the big fight is about.
That's the
right?
big fight. That's the core.
$340 billion versus $1.5 trillion.
Right. And so when we're thinking about those ACA subsidy extensions, once you get that, essentially, if we're thinking about the market implication, healthcare is likely to have a nice tailwind off of that. Now, not the Medicaid heavy, right? So you still want to be a stock picker. But when we're thinking about insurance companies on those private exchanges, we think that there could be some upside.
Because a lot of these insurance company stocks have gotten just crushed. They've been like kneecapped.
They're just waiting, right? I mean, and the thing is that we don't have an answer. And once we have that answer, then people can look forward and invest.
You have any kind of a base case, Monica, about when this whole thing may end? I mean, I have a feeling it's going to happen at the airports. I think there's going to be just a day where one of these major airports, and I flew a couple days ago and I'm flying again in a couple days, I hope, just gets totally shut down. And that's when people realize they don't care about Republican or Democrat. They just need to get to their job interview, their kid's graduation, a funeral, whatever it might be. When do you think this might end?
I think it's all about air traffic controllers as well. That's what happened last time. 4 days later, once you had a real shutdown, 4 days later, we had resolution. So we're blowing past that, the historic length. Tonight, 9/23, it'll be day 36. And so that is going to be a big factor. But when we're thinking about air traffic controllers, people are concerned about safety. They want to get home. They want to get home for the holidays.
Well,